into that, I've added this new book that's coming out from John Paul MacIsaac, the wonderful hero of the Biden laptop story, who was the computer repair shop owner, of course, and just the travails that he had and how the FBI abused him. He trusted them and they buried the laptop. He was savvy enough to suspect that. He kept a copy and he managed finally to contact Rudy Giuliani, and the rest is history. But in the meantime, he's been harassed, driven out of business. The IRS came after him. He is a true American hero, and I hope everyone gets his book, American Injustice. It's out at the end of this month.
Gosh, we do. I'll tell you what, I'm having him on. I'm going to promote that daggone book. Well, here he is. I want to hear the story. I want you to hear the story from the horse's mouth, if you will. Joining me now, John Paul MacIsaac, author of the book American Injustice. And if you want to understand just how corrupt, just how insanely corrupt the system is, go buy the book American Injustice, and you will understand an administrative state that has been fully weaponized against the enemies of the Democratic Party. John Paul, pretend like I have never heard of this story before, because sadly many people have not, thanks to our media. Who are you? How did all this begin? Give us your story. Take all the time you need.
Well, thanks, Jesse, for having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I wrote the book because I had felt like I had been prevented from telling my story. I tried to share my story when the story broke and my story was stifled and my narrative was replaced with the Russian collusion narrative. I then tried to hold Twitter accountable in a court of law, and then that failed. And so I figured court of public opinion was my last chance, and it's pretty hard to shadow ban on YouTube a book. So I wrote the book to chronicle what I went through, hopefully as a cautionary tale, so that, you know, when another election happens, we can take a closer look at how influential our federal agencies are with our social and mainstream media.
Okay, well, tell us. We don't know. What happened?
Well, the book starts out in April 12th, 2019, when Hunter Biden came into my shop with 3 liquid damaged laptops. After a brief inspection, I was able to check in one. He agreed to the terms and conditions and came in a couple days later to drop off a drive when the data recovery was complete. He then requested that I pay for, or that he pays for it electronically. I sent him a bill, and then I sent him multiple calls, and he never came back to pick it up. During the recovery process, I saw a lot of disturbing material of a personal nature. Really, was disgusting, but didn't put any fear into me until his father decided to announce his candidacy a couple weeks later. So I just figured at that point in time, a Secret Service agent or a Biden fixer-upper was going to find the piece of paper that Hunter was in possession of that clearly said I was allowed to recover data from his electronic devices. And I figured it was just a matter of time before somebody came to the shop looking for that laptop and looking to make sure that I kept quiet. When the laptop became my property in the middle of the summer, I did a deep dive to make sure the criminality that I did see was an actuality criminality. And then I knew that the best course of action then was to go to the FBI. I didn't trust the FBI. After witnessing 3 years of the weaponization of the FBI and the Department of Justice during the Mueller investigation, and then recently, back in January 2019, watching Roger Stone's house getting raided by the FBI and CNN, I was kind of concerned that this was not the best course of action, but when you stop believing in a system, then the system's guaranteed to fail. And I knew in my heart that the FBI was where this information needed to go, that they're the nation's top investigative branch, and this is their job. So I enlisted my father, who's a retired colonel in the Air Force. He took a copy of the drive to the Albuquerque FBI in October of 2019. They promptly kicked him out of their office, said, "Don't talk about this," and lawyer up. About a month later, the FBI approached my father in an effort to get a hold of me. They succeeded, and in mid-November, the FBI came to my home, where I once again tried to give them a copy of the laptop, or give them the laptop, and also alert them to data that I had seen on the laptop that I felt was relevant to the impeachment hearings that were taking place at the time. Unfortunately, they didn't want anything to do with it. They did contact me a couple weeks later and said they wanted to swing by the shop to collect everything, or to bring a forensic guy to do a forensic clone of the laptop. When they showed up at my shop on December 9th, 2019, they didn't bring a tech guy. They brought a subpoena. And I think the agents were surprised because I don't think they had ever seen somebody so happy to be served a subpoena in their life. I was just delighted that this was in the hands of the FBI. I had a phone number I could call if somebody came looking for it. And hopefully justice would be acted on. Unfortunately, when the evidence of that laptop never was submitted as evidence during the impeachment trial or for the White House's defense, I knew that the FBI probably threw it in the Potomac, or this thing was never going to see the light of day. I then enlisted my father and my uncle, again, both retired colonels in the Air Force, to knock on members of Congress's door to try to alert them to this laptop and what the FBI was up to. This, of course, was during the height of the pandemic and Russia collusion, and basically our cries for help were met with closed doors and deaf ears. So it was finally in late August of 2020 that I decided to trade my fear of getting exposed for courage, and I reached out to Rudy Giuliani's office, spoke with his lawyer, Bob Costello, and then on August 28th, I overnighted a copy of Hunter Biden's laptop to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. And the rest is history. October 14th, the New York Post ran the story. My information was outed, and I had to, in about 3 weeks, due to death threats and fears for my safety, I had to close my business and flee the state. And then, basically I'm now fighting tooth and nail to make sure what happened to me doesn't happen to anybody else, that our weaponized federal agencies don't work hand in hand with our social and mainstream media to block a story with real consequences.
The IRS come after you too?
Yeah, I think about a year ago, I got a letter from the IRS saying that I owed $57 on my taxes from 2016. So I also had trouble with my unemployment. I paid into unemployment with my business for 10 years, and this was exactly the kind of scenario that was there for me to kind of give me that cushion, because I wasn't expecting to lose my business so rapidly. So unfortunately, I was denied unemployment. They kept throwing my case file away, and finally I had to write a letter to the governor questioning if this was politically motivated in any way. And then lo and behold, or as Joe would say, son of a gun, they delivered my, not all of it, but some of my unemployment, which has definitely helped.
I hope you land on your feet, John Paul. I am sure you will. I want people to go get this book, American Injustice, not just to support John Paul, so you can find out just how despicable the administrative state of this country is and how frightening, frankly, it is. John Paul, I applaud your courage, my friend. Thank you for what you've done.